Hello there. Some of you may have seen this design on my Facebook page or on Creative Fabrica where I have it for sale, and I'll put a link for it down below for those of you who don't have time to digitize this before Halloween, or if you've got a friend who doesn't digitize but might like this design, you can let them know it's available. I thought you might like to know how to digitize it anyway, because I came across some issues in digitizing it that I thought would be good to cover and let you know about, so that you can improve the outcome of any of your other digitizing projects if you come across similar problems. So I digitized it in the Designer Plus level, and I did use the advanced applique tool initially, but I had to make quite a few adjustments and do quite a bit of manual work on it. And so I thought, well, once I'd done the manual work, I thought, well, this could have been done in the creator level of the software using these techniques. So I'm going to redigitize this quickly, but pointing out the problems as I go and the reasons I did things. So I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so I'm going to select this image and delete it because that's just the photo of the design that I inserted there so you could see it. So we'll delete that. And I did start with some graphics. Now, I couldn't find the pumpkin graphic where I got it from, so I have found another one which I've put a link down below, and I'll be using that one in this exercise so that you can actually see it with the graphic that you can get yourself. And I have also a link for the cat graphic there. So they're two separate graphics that I brought into the software. So no matter what level of software you've got, you can load an image up here. And I'm going to load the pumpkin first because the cat's sitting on top of the pumpkin. We want to start with the pumpkin. So I'm going to left click on here, and I have to go to my clip art folder where I've got them in seasonal. And where is my pumpkin? It's in a folder. Okay, so the pumpkin came down as a zipped up folder, and I've extracted it into a folder. So I opened up the zip, and you will get actually three different formats in the folder. You will also get an AI format, but people in the creator level of software don't have Art Canvas, so they can't open the AI version, but you get an EPS version and a JPEG version as well, so all is good. You can open either of those straight into Embroidery Canvas. I'm just going to use the JPEG, so I'll select that and open it up. Okay, so I'm just going to use this pumpkin here. I am going to smooth out this line here a little bit. It's a little bit too detailed, but it's a good base to start with. Now, if your graphic doesn't show when you load it, make sure you're showing your bitmap artwork. So this little daisy up here needs to be highlighted. If it looks dull or dim, it's because you've got your dim artwork on. So if I click on that, the image will dim. I'll click on it again to bring it back to full opacity so that we can actually see it very clearly. I don't need all of this JPEG. I'm only going to use this part here. I could crop it, but that's just an extra step. So I'm just going to zoom into this pumpkin here. And what we want to do is create, because I made the pumpkin part of the design and applique, which reduces the amount of sewing you have to do, but I just thought that would be a good idea. I only need to create an outline. So we've got two parts to the shape. We've got the opening up the top here, and we've got the outside of the pumpkin down here. So I'm going to create first of all the outside of the pumpkin down here, and then I will create a closed shape for the opening. So we're going to get our open object first, and we're going to go to a satin outline, and we're going to choose an orange. and all I'm going to do is left and right click to create the shape. Now I've got a basic video on digitizing objects, and that's what this is. We're just digitizing an object, so you'll know about left and right clicks, but you'll also see little rings around my cursor as I go. Green rings are for a left click and red rings are for a right click. So you'll be able to tell what I'm doing. I won't have to say what sort of clicks I'm doing each time. Okay, I'm going to left click and enter. So there's my outline. Now this is huge because this pumpkin. So already I'm thinking I have made this far too big. Yes, if I look down here, the width of the embroidery design, if I just select it, is 290 millimeters by 200 millimeters. So it's a huge design. So as I always say, it's best to size your graphic first, although it's difficult to know because you're only using portion of the graphic. If I was to size the embroidery down to what I wanted and zoomed in, then if I select that satin outline and go to the object properties and go to the outline stitch, it's showing that it's now only a width of 0.74 because I reduced the size of the embroidery. And that's what you've got to be careful of. I wanted the default 3mm satin width. So I'm going to undo or just delete that object, and I'm going to bring my graphic down in size, and we'll reduce this image by 25%. So up here in our scaling, we've got our locked to make it proportional, and we'll put 25 in there. Enter. So now our image is a lot smaller. We can start our game. So we start with our open object. I'm going to do it very roughly, but you would be a lot more careful, and enter. And as you can see now, I've got a much thicker satin outline. It's the proper 3mm width. Now up the top here, as I said, I'm going to try and simplify this a little bit. So I'm going to get a closed object, but it's still going to be a satin outline. It's still going to be the orange. I'll start over here just for interest's sake, and I'll start with a curve. And I want to just curve this. Don't worry that it's not quite right straight away. I'm not going to put any left clicks in here. I'm going to try and keep it all just quite smooth. And enter, and we've got this. So we can reshape that too if we're not happy. So I'll select it and reshape it, and I probably want to make that a bit smoother, but bring this side up a bit, down a bit here, up a bit, and I won't worry too much about the back because we're going to lose a lot of that when we put our cat on there. Probably just make that a little less pointy there. That's better. All right. Now, I really want this side to go smoothly into the top part, so I'm going to select the pumpkin part and reshape that. And I'm going to move this up a little bit so that it smoothly runs into this curve here. There we go. And you want to have it going in under the curve enough so that it's covered, so you might need to reshape your curve as well, but you don't want to go so far that this part of the satin stitch pokes out, if you should see what I mean here. Let's go to the select. If I go too far, I get stitches poking out, so I'll undo that last move. That brings it back under. Now let me just go back to the reshape tool, and if I put another curve here, I can actually bend this down a little bit, keeping the curve almost going into there, and then I can select this curve and reshape that. So if I bring this one, oh, delete that. I put a square note in by mistake there. I just want to bring this one down a little bit. To get that curve fairly smooth. That's okay. I'm okay with that side. And then just over this side as well. So we want to select this part here and reshape it. So I'm just going to move this up a little bit. That's all good there. I'm okay with that. Now, if we look at my design, you can see this shading effect. And I did that with a closed step fill, but I took out the underlay and I opened up the density. If I select one of these objects, let's anyone at random, this one, if I go out of True View, you can see I've got that selected, and go to the object properties, I can see exactly what I did. So I had a stitch spacing of 1.4, and so that's what I'm going to alter my stitch spacing in the object I do on the pumpkin. So we'll go back to the pumpkin, and I'm going to choose a closed object, a step fill, and I'm going to, because I want all those objects to have the same properties, I'm going to right click on that step fill and change that to 1.4 now before I start, and that means that every object I create from now on will have that spacing. So if I apply, you can see it opens all the way up. And in the effects, we want to go to the underlay and deselect it, because we don't want to see an underlay through there, and go OK. Now we can digitize. So I started about here, I think, but I've got to now work with this pumpkin, not the one I had originally. So I'm going to, it's going on top, but I will be moving it underneath. So I'm going to come down the satin stitch here about 1/3 the way in, so that this edge will be covered. And I'm going to just come across to about here, and then I'm coming back up here about halfway, I suppose, and then I'm going to make a bit of a curve here with some right click. Oops, backspace. Should have made that one a left click, so because I'm changing direction. And then I'm going to put a few little right clicks here, and backspace, because I need to come a few more clicks so, to stop it from ballooning out. See, it'll balloon out if you don't do enough clicks. So I'll backspace and come back a bit closer to the other one. That's better. And left click here and enter. Alright, so you can see this nice open stitching, but the angle's not going in the right direction. So with creator level, you don't have the wave effect. I used the wave effect with mine, and I will in a minute show you that. But first of all, for those of you with the creator level, you can change the angle either with the reshape tool or the you can type in a stitch angle in the effects. We'll do it with the reshape tool, it's a lot easier. So I'll select that object and go to the reshape tool, and here's your stitch angle line. Now if you can't find that, then you might need to go into your object properties, but I'm going to make the angle come up the pumpkin like that. Now for those of you with the, I'll just hide the image for a moment so you can see that stitching. Now I've got a travel line here, which we don't want. So that's another thing we can change in the object properties. So we'll select that object, right click, go to the object properties, and in the effects, under others, you'll see a box for travel on edges. Put a check mark next to that and go OK. And now you'll see the travelling is actually along here and along here. So most of the travelling is underneath that satin stitch. You won't be able to necessarily avoid all the travel on edges from showing here by putting them, because it's either got to be this side or that side, so both these parts will be seen, but that looks a lot better than having a travel line running through. Okay, now if you've got the Designer Plus level, of course, you can apply the wave effect to this object. So while it's selected, come down here and click on the wave fill. The wave will default to this arched one, so you need to go to the reshape tool and you need to put in your curve. Might need to do it in a couple of moves because otherwise it flips back to the original position. Okay. Right, so now I've got those curves following the shape of the pumpkin. Okay. Now, I'm not going to bore you repeating that for the other sections, but if you can see the general idea there, if I bring the image back, the next one I create will be close to this one, but a little bit away. So I'll just do one more. Closed object, step fill, and we know we've got, let's go into the object properties again and set it so that we've got travel on edges on all of them. So go OK. So now I will come maybe here, and put a shading in there. Again, you'll need to fix the stitch angle. Put another one here, another one here, another one up here and here. I'll pause the video and do all that and come back. Okay, so I've made my other bits of shading, and I haven't bothered about the ones here because the cat's going to be here with his little paw, so I don't think that would be overkill. But hopefully that will show you how you can get a bit of dimension. Now of course this has to stitch before the satin, but I'm not going to worry about the stitch order just yet because we've got quite a bit more work to do and we'll sort all that out at the end. Right, that's oh well, we've got to do the face of the pumpkin. In this case we want a solid fill, so we need to go back to our fill object properties now before we start and change that back to 0.45, which is the default, and apply that and OK, and now anything we digitize will be that density. So I just put one single shape for the well, we want the black color for a start, and we want to digitize a closed object, black, and step fill. Right, so for the nose I just digitized a simple 3-point triangle and entered, and for the eyes I had slightly different shape, but these aren't too bad, so you could just use the darker part of the eye here, enter. Now that eye might get in the way of the paw, we might have to move the whole face down a little bit, so we'll see shortly. And of course the mouth, it takes a while to digitize the mouth. Let me just get a mouth from here. So I'll select that object, copy it, and come back here to design 2 and Control V, and it's come onto the screen somewhere down there. Alright, I must have made that one a lot bigger, that design, so we'll shrink that down and put that mouth in there. So again, just click around the shape or create your own mouth shape. This is at the 45-degree default angle, all of these objects, so we'll leave them at that for the moment. What I might do is, as I said, select all of my facial objects. So hold down your control key, or you can do it in the colour film. It's all the black objects here. So click on the first one, hold your shift key down, click on the last one, and we can just bring them down a bit. So we've got a little bit more room for the cat's paw up here. Okay. Now we've finished with the pumpkin image for the time being, so we can delete that one. So we'll come up here and select the image and hit the delete button on your keyboard. Now in the next video I'll go on and digitize the cat, and then there'll be another video showing you how to turn it into an applique. If you're liking these videos, make sure you are subscribed and have turned on notifications so that you don't miss any. Thank you.